Good morning. In today's project, we're going to be changing the chain as well as the sprockets, and I will be using the service manual to follow it step by step. They don't have a lot of information on how to do this. It's separated into two different chapters. I'll include a picture so that you guys can see. I also took this opportunity to invest in this tool. Since I do all of the work myself, it makes more sense for me to invest it. If I'm going to be paying the shop an equal amount to the tool, I would much rather invest in the actual tool itself than to pay the dealership money, and I don't know if they're going to do the job correctly or not. It's just my opinion. Keep in mind, I'm not a trained mechanic. This is just for your reference and your entertainment. Please, if you are not comfortable, do not try this yourself. I currently have 24,000 miles on the bike, and my chain and sprockets have been outstanding. I do take care of the chain and sprockets. I do regular maintenance in terms of cleaning and oiling, but nothing over the top. So once we take everything apart, we'll examine it, we'll compare it to a brand new one so that you guys can see what the pattern is like. And since my wheels are still off the bike because I just did the bearings project, I'm going to start off by replacing the rear sprocket. Let's get started. Make sure the rear wheel is on blocks so that your rotor isn't on the floor. Mind you, these are torqued to 80 foot-pounds, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to get them undone. This is a 19 millimeter nut. Definitely you will need a breaker bar to get these off. However, I don't have my breaker bar with me, forgive me guys, so I am using my torque wrench, my 1/2-inch torque wrench. If you have to use your torque wrench in a bind, it's okay. Back it out all the way to 0 and you can use it. Use your right hand while you brace it this way, and you're going to be undoing it like this, and then also with your knee. So it's a little bit tricky, so bear with me. If you need to, rotate the wheel to bring the nut in this position so that you have better leverage. And now we can take it off and then compare it to the brand new one. Make sure that we're going to clean this surface over here. That way when we mount the new one, it's perfectly level. I can't believe my eyes. After 24,000 miles, there is barely any wear. Look at that. Very impressive. Clean these surfaces very well. Now that we have the surfaces clean, it's time to install the new sprocket. When installing the new sprocket, it's got two sides, right? This side and this side. You see how it's completely flat over here? This is the side that goes down, and the way to tell them apart is it's got the brand right here and the number of teeth. This is going to be facing up. We're going to drop it completely flat, and then we're going to torque down these nuts to 80 foot-pounds. Snug them up before you use the torque wrench. And then when you're torquing them, make sure you're doing it in a star pattern. So if you torque this one, you're going to jump over to this one, right? So that when this pushes it down, you're going to try to balance it by torquing this one to keep everything level and even. So start here, jump over here, and the next one across is which way? Right this way, okay? So you're going to come here, 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 and then the one directly across of it is going to be here, and then the one directly across of this one is going to be here. That's the final torque down, okay? That way, once it settles, it's going to be completely flat. Set your torque wrench to 80 foot-pounds, and once again, don't forget to follow the star pattern. Did you hear that? That's one. jump across over here. 2, jump across over here. 3, we're going to jump across over here. I do want to share with you a tip. When using a torque wrench, if you guys are torquing down and you suspect that it's actually going past the torque setting, here's what you can do so that you don't create any damage. Back it out. So let's say we need to be at 80 over here. I'm going to back it out to about 40. And I'm going to test it to make sure that my tool is working as it's supposed to, so that we don't over torque it and risk damaging. You hear that? And incrementally go up. Next one is going to be 60. This is 60. You hear that? And this is 80. And this is only if you suspect that the tool is not working as it's supposed to. There we go. The last one to do is this one. There we go. And the sprocket is installed. Time to put the wheel back on the bike, so we can connect the old chain and then we can undo the front sprocket. Before we put the rear wheel back on, I do have one question for you guys. Which nuts did we actually torque down? These nuts. Let me know if you guys agree with me. We're going to come in at an angle in this fashion and slowly push the caliper in place. Make sure the brake pads are separated. Without the air shim, this would have been a nightmare. Start from the top and rotate the wheel. Torque these to 20 foot-pounds. Now we need to install the chain adjuster. Now that we have the wheel on the bike, let's examine the chain. Even though my rear sprocket looked almost brand new, there was zero wear on it, it doesn't mean that the chain is actually good. So we're gonna examine it closely so that you guys can see what to look for, and then that way you guys know it's time to change your chain. Mind you, I highly recommend you watch how to install the rear wheel because it's not as easy as it appears. I want you to pay attention to the chain as I'm rotating, and you guys can actually see some of the kinks in the chain. These are almost frozen links, okay? So pay attention as I'm rotating it. Do you see? There's one right there. Here's another one. Do you see how the angle is going up and down? See that? It doesn't move freely. It's kind of stuck, you see? And what I want you guys to notice over here is that it's actually missing an O-ring. So one of the O-rings is actually off. Can you guys see the O-ring right here on the inside? Now look over here. You see? The O-ring fell off completely. Do you also see this kink right here as well as the rust? Even though I do take good care of my chain, but still, it will rust, okay? This has 24,000 miles on it. Now, as I rotate, you'll see this marker right here. Do you see how the actual O-ring, oh, that's right there. See how it's actually sticking out and falling off? That's what happened to the other one. You see it close up? That's when you know that the chain is at its end of its life. In order to get to the front sprocket, we have to remove the left step by removing these two bolts. This is an 8mm hex. And once we remove that, it's going to give us easier access to the actual sprocket cover over here, which has these two bolts on the bottom. And this will give us access to the actual sprocket. When you're removing the front sprocket cover, be mindful of how the cables are routed. Do you see these? How they're actually caught behind it? So just remember how it is. To make things easier, why don't you take a picture of it, and that way when you're reinstalling it, you'll remember exactly how it goes. This is an 8mm socket. And there's a second one on the bottom. Most likely it's going to be a dirty job because there's going to be a lot of oil and gunk behind this, so it's probably a good idea to wear some gloves. There is a clip on the bottom over here holding these cables in place. I'm going to show you how we're going to disconnect them. Do you see this? The metal bracket behind it? Be mindful of it when you're removing it, okay? You see all this mess over here and dirt? This is a good opportunity to clean this whole area over here, as well as this. Remember how this goes on, okay? This is that clip that I was telling you about. So you squeeze this in together and push it through, and then it's gonna free this plastic cover for you to remove it and clean it. You don't necessarily have to because you already have direct access over here, but it's going to make cleaning a lot easier. With pliers, just apply force like this, and you see how easy that was? And free the cable, and then this is ready to be cleaned. Surprisingly, this is only a 14mm socket, and the torque is only 40 foot-pounds. However, you have to take precautions. Make sure that the bike is braced. Make sure that you have somebody to assist you to apply the rear brake as you are undoing it, because when I'm going to be torquing it this way, do you see how the front sprocket is turning? When that happens, it's going to try to turn the rear wheel. In my situation, I'm working alone. I've taken precautions. I have blocks under the rear wheel as well as the front, and the parking brake is engaged. But please be very careful when you do this, okay? Be prepared to brace the bike if it starts to go. And that's it. Like I said, it was only 40 foot-pounds. Now that we've loosened the bolt that's holding the front sprocket, we can actually break the chain, okay? So what I've decided to do is invest in this tool. This is called the PBR tool. By Motionpro. It's a little bit pricey. You guys can find other options online, I'm sure, and there's plenty of videos on how to use this and comparisons, so do your research before you invest. But in my case, this makes total sense because I do all of the work myself, and this is a lifetime investment. I have the tool set in the brake configuration, and the way that this works is, you see how there's a hole right there? See, this is the pinhead. There's another one behind it exactly the same. That pinhead goes in here, okay? So this is going to be like that, holding it in place. This right here, you screw it in, it'll actually hold the tool in place while you drive this pin in to push the actual pin inside out. When you're setting the pin in the back, make sure it actually falls inside of the detent, and then screw this on over the front one. There you go, like that, to hold the actual tool in place so that once we start driving the pin pusher through, it's not gonna move around on you, okay? So just snug this up. This is a 17mm, just a little bit. And then this is actually a 14mm. So you're gonna start to drive it in and it's gonna push it through. That's the concept. While supporting the tool with the handle, start driving it in, go slow, and you're gonna start to feel resistance until it shears this head off. So you're gonna start to feel resistance in the beginning as you're pushing until it shears the head off. After that, it'll be smooth to push it out. I can feel a lot of resistance. There we go. I think it just gave way. It does take a little bit of force. Just continue to push it all the way through. We still have a little bit to go to push it all the way through. Continue to drive it. Almost there. There you go. Back this out. And you can see the pin right there. Once the pin goes through, the chain is separated and now we can remove it. That's the pin right there. See how it actually sheared the head right off? And then pull the chain out this way. Just careful not to scratch your swing arm. Now that we removed the chain, it's time to remove the sprocket. Keep in mind where the writing is, because the new one, that's how it's going to fit. You got a washer like that. And look at all this rust. I'm going to take the opportunity to clean this mess up over here before installing the new sprocket. This is the old sprocket, and directly underneath it is the new one. And if you guys take a look, it is identical. Zero wear on it with 24,000 miles. Very, very impressive. Now that we've cleaned this area best we can, we need to install the front sprocket. Remember that the writing is facing out, facing you. We're just putting it in place, and then we will torque it to 40 foot-pounds after we install the chain. This is what the new chain looks like, and they also send you a master link. I would recommend to get an extra one, just in case when you're installing it, you have issues, you over-tighten it or whatever. It's always a safe bet to get another one. It's only like $8, I think. The chain comes greased in this fashion, so we need to clean it well before we install it, and then lubricate it properly after we install it. You can use gas or petrol basically to clean this off. It's a good solvent. Or you can use a chain cleaner. Let's compare the two chains to see how the old chain actually stretches. This is a good visual representation. You see how it's starting to change? Let's take a look all the way at the end. And that's the amount of difference or the amount of stretch that the old chain had. The chain that comes with the bike has 114 links up to here. And the new one, when you buy it, is 120. So we are going to have to cut it over here so that it'll be the same length. We will need to remove these 6 links, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are gonna break the chain right over here. Make sure you put a marker so that you don't forget when you're actually doing the work, because you don't wanna cut it too short. That's a disaster, right? Okay, it's time to get the new chain cut to the right length. So we have to remove 6 of these links. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are going to be breaking it or cutting it right here by removing this pin. We're going to use the PBR tool once again. Make sure you count twice and know exactly where you're going to be cutting, because you need to measure twice, cut once. Always, you don't want to ruin a brand new chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 links are being removed. We're cutting it over here, and this leaves this pin open. Same thing on the other side to use the actual new link. You see how the pin fell out from the other side? And just like that, we separated the chain. Let's install the chain on the bike. The new chain comes with a master link that's already pre-lubed, or if you get a brand new one, it comes with the lube separate. They provide you with 4 O-rings, a plate, and a master link. What we're going to do first is install 2 O-rings, and then we're going to slide it in from the rear. Always remember to put the O-rings on. And lastly, the plate. Typically, this is the hardest part of doing the master link, is pressing this, but that's why we have the tool. We're going to do that together. We'll take measurements to make sure that everything is to spec. During this process, you have to take your time. Position the tool accurately so that you can start to press this plate in. Go very, very slowly, okay? This is a 17 millimeter. Pause and double check on this side as well as the other side that the actual pin is coming through. You can see it in there. Just go slow. Can you see the pin pushing through now? What you're looking for is you're trying to replicate this distance, okay? So by eyeballing it, you can see that the plate still has a couple of millimeters to go in still, and then we'll take accurate measurements with a caliper. This is a very delicate process, so you have to take your time. Don't rush it. We are getting very close. Let's take a measurement. This is 19.98. And currently we are at 20.51. So we have 0.5 millimeter left. $20.2. We still have 0.2 to go. I'm at 20.05. I'm happy with this measurement right now. I'm going to remove the tool and take more measurements, and then we will move on to riveting. The manual states that the pin needs to be out between 1.2 and 1.4 millimeters. Let's take a measurement. We are at 1.45. Very close. I'm happy with that. Okay, let's take a final measurement of the actual distance between each plate from here to here, and then from here to compare. This distance is 20.0. Let's check the link that we put on. .06. This is as close to perfection as one can get. The next thing we need to do is to measure this distance over here. We are at 5.3. And the second one is also 5.3. When we start to rivet this, it needs to measure between 5.3 and 5.7. So it's not a lot that it has to flare out, but just enough to prevent this plate from coming out. And now it's time to rivet the pins. The tool comes with this, and you put that right there and then press it. That way this can open up. Once again, this is a very slow process, so take your time, do not rush it. You only get one shot. You're going to have to back it out and measure multiple times. Do you see how it's flared out a little bit? We are at 5.45 right now. We can go a little bit more. We are at 5.56 and I'm going to stop right here. Let's do the second one. $5.62. I'm very happy with that. The next thing we need to do is to torque down the front sprocket. Make sure that you brace your bike. Make sure that there is somebody here with you to help you, okay, so that the bike doesn't fall on you. So this goes to 40 foot-pounds. right there. Now we can install the sprocket cover. When installing the bracket, you have locator pins right here and over here. And you see this cutout over here? It corresponds right here. And then we can install the left step. Don't over torque these. I'll include the torque setting over here. All right, rear sprocket is installed, front sprocket is installed, new chain is installed, new bearings are installed. The last thing that we have to do is align the rear wheel. I have a video I'm gonna link. Please watch that video so that you guys know how to do it. Make sure that the wheel is aligned, and then the last thing that we have to do is set the slack, and we are good to go. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and have a great day.